I'm joined now by Lloydminster Mayor Gerald Aalbers. Mayor, thank you for taking the time here today. And obviously, it's been a very busy year here in the city with an election and now most recently the budget. Just how hard was it to craft a budget during these circumstances?
You know, administration has been working on that budget for some time. Certainly, it's been a process, and every budget's a process. But we've seen some changes in the financial planning and the programming used at the city, so that helped a little bit, getting managers up to speed on that program, getting their engagement, having them build a budget that they're very proud of and can support. Also looking at the long term. We've also went to that 5-year, looking at some 5-year budgeting and 10-year budgeting for capital. So getting them thinking about that, which is very critical on the administrative side, and this has all been led by the city manager. Then they brought it together, built business cases to support those budget items, and presented it first to the administrative team through our executive administrative portion of the team. Then that's where they did some cutting, as they say in the production world. I understand you've used those kind of terms. And they brought it forward to council before the election for the first presentation, saying this is what we're looking at. I can say it's a no-frills budget because we're paving roads, we're putting water and sewer in the ground, we're fixing storm water, we're taking advantage of federal and provincial monies that come forward, especially with COVID, and put them to use, which were unplanned and had to be unplanned work. So the work that's going on, as an example, on 44th Street is now going to happen, but that was in the long-term plan, but it wasn't budgeted money for next year, but now it is, as you can appreciate. So it's been challenging. COVID has thrown us all for a little bit of a loop, to say the least. Planning and understanding the value and the need, how do we staff accordingly, because next week if the rules change again, we need less staff, hours are cut back, those kind of things. Administration took that into account as best as they could going forward for the next budget, and that's where we arrived at today.
Now within that budget, one of many buildings that is in need of updating is the fire hall. Just where are we at with the fire hall currently, and what is the timeline here in the near future?
Well, the timeline is for construction to start early in the spring of 2021. From that perspective, I don't have an end date yet, and we're just moving through that. Another portion of the construction process was awarded just the other day at council through the construction management process. So the construction management team that was hired by the city through contract will then work with the architect, work with our city team to basically finish off the architectural work and design and say this is what needs to be moved, because you physically can't put a pipe through a piece of steel as an example, if that's what's used for construction or things like that. So that's going to happen, and we'll start to see dust fly in the spring in 2021 at the fire hall. We'll see dust flying out at the wastewater treatment plant in the spring of 2021, and you'll see dust flying on 44th Street. So there's a fair amount of dust to fly in the new year.
And as I mentioned, a busy year here with that election wrapping up in November, and 5 of 6 councillors returning with some previous council experience. Just what are your thoughts here as we move forward with this council over the next 4 years?
I was very fortunate to be acclaimed. I appreciate the 6 councillors that were elected. You mentioned 5 with experience, absolutely. Councillor Marion is getting up to speed rather quickly, as you can appreciate, being elected to her first term on council. I think that we as a council understand economic development was very clearly discussed throughout the election, and it's on our minds. It's been on our minds, and we'll just continue to build on that. And one of the things I've learned about economic development is we simply just don't go out and call on a customer of a new business to come to town and they say, I like your idea. Yeah, we're coming next week. Or as sometimes business is done, you can do it in one day. This is a long-term approach to economic development, letting people know we exist, especially when we're looking at the chains that we see today in our community for businesses, restaurants, hotels. Those are long-term plans. Those just don't hatch overnight. So that's going to be something that we're going to continue to work with very closely with our economic development team as we continue to build with the community that's here, because we want to enhance the businesses that are here. We want to grow those businesses. We also want to attract new business, because new business brings more business. So it's the long-term approach from that perspective. The next 4 years, we're going to see challenging with funding from the provinces in the way of revenue sharing and their funding formulas that they have. I'm not kidding anyone, and I think everybody knows that Alberta and Saskatchewan are facing relatively tough times because of the resource industry, the challenges that they're experiencing. So we will face those items head on with the provinces, working with them, but also conveying with them that we maintain 60% of the infrastructure in this country. And if you don't have good water and good sewer and good roads in Lloydminster, people have a hard time getting to work, and there's other challenges that come with it. So we'll continue to, I guess, argue and make our point for infrastructure support, because that is critical. And it's either that or the taxpayers are going to pick up more of that infrastructure cost, because, we all know that the water and sewer lines are fine until something breaks.
And my last question here, as we wrap up 2020 and move into 2021, what is council's priority and first up here in the new year?
I think that you're going to see a very similar direction from council. Administration is we're kicking off, and it was in the budget for 2021. It happened in 2020. We saw the lean program used at the city to start to evaluate some of the work that's done on the administrative side and saying, can we reduce, as we've heard from the governments, red tape reduction? So processes and procedures, if there's duplication and things like that. And we hear from people all the time that, can it be made simpler? And I think that there's an opportunity for that to be looked at and explored. That's going to happen in 2021. We're going to be talking about a new strategic plan. We've got one. Do we continue on, make some adjustments to it? Because the wastewater treatment plant was one of the first major items on that 4 years ago. We have the funding. We have progress being made towards building it. So as a strategic plan, I think that one can come off, and we can look at something different if that's what council chooses, or we'll start and build a new one from that perspective based on coming out of COVID. I hope that's the plan. And I think that's the other item, is we've got a lot of things to happen with COVID in 2021, and I hope that we see a lot more sunshine than we do cloud.
All right, Mayor, always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.